Eyes wide open.
If you think Dogman is just a legend, keep watching. From shadowy figures stalking rural backroads, from towering wolf-like creatures emerging from the tree line, these sightings have left witnesses shaken, speechless, and forever changed. If you've ever wondered what really growls in the wilderness after sunset, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
I've come across a lot of creatures in my travels. A lot of them just want to be left alone. To be able to live in the solitude of nature. I understand that. Most humans aren't the understanding type. They can't leave things alone. They hate what they don't understand. I used to believe that hatred was solely a human trait. Then I encountered a monster whose hatred has followed me for years. God help you if you ever find yourself in the presence of the Dogman.
The shadow that you seen was bipedal, and it almost looked like a giant canine. It didn't have any, human features to it. 7 to 8 feet tall, very broad shouldered, and it had this canine looking head to it.
I remember it was a dog-like creature. To this day, I can distinctly remember hearing the footsteps, bipedal footsteps in the gravel, and it was shuffling.
I've faced predators, most of your big game predators that you have in the States. These things don't act like that. You look in these things' eyes, these things look like they're trying to figure you out. They look like they're looking through you, trying to figure out what your next move is, so they can get around it. I've been around predators my whole life, and I've never seen anything in my life act like that.
People who have these sightings truly experience something unexplainable. They saw something that they can't identify, something they can't quantify or put into rational terms. And when we start to theorize on that, we start at a baseline, which would be this is of flesh and blood. We know wolves, canids exist on our planet, and this looks like one, so therefore we would theorize that this is one of those that's flesh and blood, but has extraordinary abilities to get up and walk, or is bigger for some reason. But when you start to play in the fact that we don't have a body, we've got all these sightings, then sightings dating way back, legends and everything, that's when people play in other theories like, it must be more paranormal.
That's in a barn down the road, and there's state and federal authorities there. The government has showed up. There's a helicopter up there. It's in the barn. This is what I hear. I have a police scanner in here, and I'm listening to it. And it's in the barn, and the government has showed up, and I don't know what they're doing. They won't let us near that area. But the one helicopter showed up, and about 4 Blackhawks flew by, and they're over there at a short distance. But this one is right on top. This helicopter's right on top of where the barn is. I'm not really sure what, but they were chasing it. It went into a barn, and it's cornered. Tried everything to get to the barn. Oh, look at the guy's got a assault rifle, the cop. There's no way into the barn. They got it blocked off. There's a news truck. There's some cops. There's some feds. I mean, they got the highway blocked off. You can't get in.
Jeremy, we're on Guy Road, just south of Luther, where a hunter says he came face to face with what people around here call the Dogman. He tells state police he saw a creature on 2 legs cross the trail around dusk last night. He fired twice, says he thinks he hit it.
These Nephilim beings are in cooperation with the cartel, because these cartel, they're demonic organizations, and they seek these beings for power. They actually look to these beings for protection, for next level wisdom, for all those kinds of things. And while the church is just now catching up to this, these cultures have been a part of these things for forever.
And she was raised to be the bride of Satan. Okay. And so that meant having babies for them, to being wed to Satan himself. I mean, like horrible things. And these people lying to her, abusing her, putting programs and triggers in her, putting programming in her, and all of these other things. And she happened to be, in a place that I went. I ran away from the state I was living in to go live at this certain place where I had some friends that were living there, to run away from, hide from the cops. She had come to that property too, so that the people who had owned it could minister to her, and so she could hide and run away from the coven. She wanted to escape. So I met her there, and I would go up and hang out. She had a mobile home there. I would go up and hang out at her house with her kids, and we'd make popcorn, and me and her would drive into town and get pies from Marie Callender's. I really like this person. She's such an amazing human being. Okay. And she loves the Lord. Okay. And I was at her house one night at the mobile home. And when I left, something came running down the hill. It was a snowy night. So the moon is reflecting off the snow, and it was like running like that. And I was turning around and was like, what is this? And it was an upright being, but it was hairy like an animal, but running upright. And so I take off. I'm like, man, adrenaline rush. And I'm running down the hill to the house that I was staying in. And the driveway was very steep. When I hit the driveway, the snow would melt, and then it would form a sheet of ice. When it would get cold again from the water. I hit that driveway and I went like literally tobogganing down to the bottom, and probably saved my life because this thing's chasing me. Yeah. And I went down to the basement, which is where I was staying, and my room had no windows, and I was like peeking out the door, waiting for it to like come through the sliding glass doors in the basement. Later on, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell the people that owned the house. I didn't tell this woman, nothing. What I saw, I thought, I'm coming off hallucinating. Really badly, obviously. So I didn't tell anybody. But later on, when I was with that woman again, and we were driving up the windy road, the dirt road in the forest to get there, I looked and saw this thing running alongside the car again in the tree line. And I didn't say anything, and I sat there and looked in the car, and then she goes, oh, there it is again. And I'm like, what? And she goes, it's a werewolf, and it's following me. It was there because of her. Okay. Because werewolves are... She was part of a coven. Because she was trying to escape the coven. Yeah, okay. And that's what they use werewolves for. They use them as punishers, assassins. If somebody disobeys in the coven, you have to deal with those beings. They go and take care of business in a horrible way, right? Yeah. So it had been sent for her.
Kangaroo running. Like the very first thing I thought about was a kangaroo as I saw this thing running. And at this point, I'm in an Infiniti sedan, and it's like hopping almost. Giant hops on it. We had followed it for probably, 5-10 seconds, and it turns and looks at us, and it's a definite dog head. And the ears are pointed, the snout is long. It was different than a coyote. It wasn't as like slim. It was a little more bulky, right? But when it turned and looked at us, this giant tongue, dude, flies out of its mouth, and its tongue is huge, and it's turning and looking at us, and its drool is showing, flying, and you can see its teeth, and it went to the middle of the road, and it sat down, and it looked at us, tongue hanging out, ears straight up, and it's in the middle of the road. So you have an entire lane, the ditch goes down, and then coming up 4 or 5 foot hill that goes up. And on top of that hill, there's a 4-rung barbed wire fence. This thing from a seated position on its hocks, one leap from a sitting position and jumps and clears that barbed wire fence that far. Looking at it, I would say every bit of 30 feet.
She was Oregon. Well, close to Bend, Oregon. I brought the 8-person tent, or the 6-person tent. I haven't pulled this thing out in a long time, so I thought first of the season I should pull that out, give it a go. It's about that time. Sun is setting. I think it's about 8 o'clock. Should be dark out here in less than an hour. So you can get a little bit over there through the trees. Beautiful night. Definitely going to be turning in early though. Now I've been woken up by noises. Yeah, you can hear it. Something from that side. Sounds right outside the tent. There's something right outside the tent. That can't be. That's just. That's someone's messing around with the rocks out there. Jesus Christ. Leave me alone! Flashlight. Now I can't see a god thing outside this night vision. Jesus Christ. I don't know where the chased me off. Now I'm wondering. The god darkness. Flashlight.
So it was like something reached inside the doggy door.
Or was trying to get in and then got stuck. And then pulled out. And then ripped some hair. Because the dog, they're 15-pound Shih Tzu, you know. The Sean Shih Tzus. And their hair is not that color. It's crazy, dude.
I mean, that's got to be one of the scariest, unsettling nights I've heard of.
These things are 500 pounds plus. Take you wherever they come from, or where there's caves around here, there's mines. I'm glad I didn't go out.
No, I can't. I can't blame you on that one for sure.
That's what really did me in, and then now my fear has gone down, my knowledge has gone up, my discernment has gone up. And I've prayed about it. I think that helps a lot. If you believe in God, we have dominion over some things, and they have no right to terrorize, let alone take our lives.
Greetings, travelers. A bit windy and a bit noisy because we're right on I-75. We are in what was the town of Pemberton, which is no longer here. This was their cemetery. It is called Wild Cow Prairie Cemetery. It just became a historical marker in 2020, which is amazing because they were going to bulldoze this place for a gas station for the villages. But thankfully, it's been saved. We do believe that there are native burials that were here before this became a cemetery for Civil War soldiers and others. It's an amazing little place. Now, it's kind of funny that it was made a historical thing in 2020 because on this day in history, in 2020, Ontario, the town of Windsor, had encounters with what they thought was a dogman or a werewolf. Something crazy was seen there with canine features in the head and either wolf-like or deer-like feet and legs. Pretty crazy. Was seen a lot. There were Facebook posts of people warning to keep your pets indoors and all that. But was never seen, and thankfully I was never seen again. But 2020 being the lockdown, that's why people are out in parks and seeing a lot more. So we don't know if it's still there. We don't know what happened to it, but a creepy thing for your eerie travels.
Officer had been called to a hunting cabin that had been mauled on the outside. It had claw marks and teeth marks that were over 7 feet tall, and the only tracks they could find were dog tracks.
About the legend of the Dogman, half human, half dog. Not a werewolf, though. He looks just like a regular canine until he can stand on his back 2 legs and stands about 7 feet tall, and all the people who have seen him in person give the same description. Big mane of hair, large muzzle, has human-like paws, and the scariest description, it can smile. One of the scariest stories is told about a man talking about his grandpa and his uncles and how one night they were all at home when out of nowhere their German shepherd comes flying through the living room window, unfortunately deceased with a chain wrapped around its neck. Their grandpa was a Vietnam veteran, so he armed himself along with his boys. They ran outside, got on top of the house on the roof, secured the perimeter, and all they said was they heard the Dogman walking around, twigs breaking through the woods, and if they saw him, they all gave the same description.
Please don't take anything I say that I am bragging or that I know anything. I absolutely know nothing. Even the books that I have written, and there's one coming out, it will show you how little I and how little we all know about the subject of Bigfoot and Dogman. We're on a learning phase. I am 64 years old, and I am still a student. As of even recent, a 7-year-old child taught me something. So if I can learn from a 7-year-old child, I can learn from each and every person that is seated here today, because I'm simply a student. People will ask me, what's wrong with this peninsula? Why is there issues or evil or problems? Well, it goes back to these folks. This entire place is nothing but a graveyard. From one end of the peninsula to the other, it was highly prized by the Adena people, which is the mixture of Cherokee, Shawnee, Choctaw, and many others. This area, from one end to the other, is a graveyard. Virtually almost everywhere you can step, you're within a few feet of some poor soul that has stepped this way before us. Now, the Cherokee and Shawnee, let's go back to them first, and we speak of their oral history of seeing a 6 to 8 foot Dogman style creature that walks and lurks on this land. Now their history goes back further than us, and they speak of this beast that would rip the throats out. Now we only have a couple children. Mike, they're used to it. Okay, Mike. They would rip the throats out and not even eat the people. They would rip the throats out of mules and horses and creatures, and sometimes never touch anything. They just killed for sport. And this was the oral history that we were taught. And I could go on for hours simply about the Cherokee and Shawnee, because they owned this land. It was from all the way from the Muscle Shoals all the way up to the Ohio River. They prized this land as their home. This is where they eat, this is where they worship, and I can't emphasize just how important that is. We'll move from the Indian people to the white man. When the white man shows up, he kicks everyone out and he takes the land, and he steals it. This set off a war for 15 years with the war chief, Chief Dragon Canoe. It's very important that we remember this, because Chief Dragon Canoe had a Shawnee. Now, while he's Cherokee, he had a Shawnee medicine man. And I can go back and take you to the written journals of some of the people that came here on the Transylvania Fur and Land Company that wrote in their journals about a Shawnee medicine man that would rip the arms and legs and heads off of whites. We had a living witness to this. A woman and her child had hid over a cliff to get away from Chief Dragon Canoe and this Shawnee medicine man. Now, please keep in mind, I'm a huge fan of this guy. Even though he's out killing people, hey, he's defending his turf. This is his home before it was long before it was ours. But this Shawnee medicine man, the description is simple. The woman that lived through this, it took her over a year to gain her speech back after she was witness to this. And people wrote down she was a daughter of a ship's captain. And she escaped a great battle that had taken place at Miller's Creek, actually very close to my home on the other side of Robertson County, Tennessee. So this wolf man was described, some people thought that he wore the skin of either wolves, coyotes, or some type of a skinned animal. Her description is, no, he was a wolf man. So we can go back and we go back to the Indian messages of that we had some type of a wolf man that roamed these lands. I don't know what to believe, but I'm very open-minded. We'll go from Indian to the Transylvania Fur Company and Land Company, and let me tell you about a group of people that I do respect highly. And I don't know if I have any Mormons here, but I highly respect the Mormon religion. While I am a Christian and raised Catholic and Baptist, the Mormon religion has its attributes as well. We will talk about the Apostle Sir David Patton that came through this region in 1836, and he was a healer. And he would visit from home to home. And it's very important, I have Mike Smith back here, that right behind his home was Abraham Smoot, was a reverend, and Sir Patton would visit their home. And it's very important to realize who Abraham Smoot was, is that he was a very well thought of and high ranking Mormon. There was Mormon people who lived on this peninsula and outside the peninsula. We've established Sir David Patton's trade route as he would go from home to home. Why is he important? Because 1836, he's riding a 16 to 18 hand tall mule. And as he's traveling through the area of Mike's home to Paris, Tennessee, he passes through this area of land between the lakes. He runs across what is defined as a over 8-foot giant, red hair with hair hanging off of its body, and they communicate with each other. He asked of the giant, where do you live? And something along the lines of, I'm a sojourn soul that has been committed to walk the earth for eternity, and I am miserable. He goes back and he tells this story, and it's repeated even today. Mr. Patton had contact with either a Nephilim, a giant, sons of angel, whatever that you would like to speak of. We'll flash forward a few years, all of the reports that take place on the peninsula, and including what happened to me. I had an older man. Anybody in here a member of the Sons of the Confederacy or Revolutionary, Sons of Revolutionary? Oh man, I cannot be the only one. Over here, maybe, nope. Okay, Sons of Revolutionary is very important. They were here first, and there was a lot of wars taking place. There was a lot of battles. Sons of Confederacy, I run across a gentleman that's in his late 80s, early 90s. He led me to 2 graves that are on this peninsula. The giants are over 9 feet long. The graves are almost 12 feet long, and where they've caved in, we have used underground ground penetrating radar. And this is nothing new. The entire state of Kentucky has got skeletons all over, buried, where between 9 and 13 feet in length. Who or what these giants are is up for debate. However, there were 2 giants buried here on this peninsula. This older gentleman from the Sons of Confederacy is a local historian, and he is absolutely one of the most intelligent historians I've ever met. Everything he has taught me, everything he has given to me, I have, in my eyes, verified. So, you know, you've got the shadow people, you've got giants, the sloping giants that roam this area. You have skeletons, and the Smithsonian Institute is full of these giant skeletons. You'll never see them because they've hid them, because it destroys parts of the Bible, it destroys parts of our history, and it goes to the very fabric and moral of our souls. Where the giants came from, who and what they are, and if you believe in the book of Enoch or parts of the Bible, you can go very simply as learning from the Bible. There were giants in those days, and even still. Flash forward a little bit more, and I'm trying to keep you right at 10 to 15 minutes because I know some of you are hungry, and you can tell by looking at me I like to eat as well. but in 1993, I was absolutely not a believer whatsoever. I thought that the only Sasquatch or Bigfoot was way out in California and probably had already outlived or either died or something. I didn't believe in Bigfoot, guys. Right here on this peninsula, I had contact with 2 Bigfoot and 4 to 5 creatures called Werewolf or Dogman. I'm changing from Dogman now, guys. I'm leaning away from Dogman and going with Wolfman, Werewolf. I don't know what roams this park, but I'll tell you this. For a creature to exist, therefore his language must exist. I have tape recordings of languages that I've heard. This will flip you out, but it's just the simple truth. You will find a man in the state of Ohio, and there's one in Texas that I've spoken to that I believe with all my heart communicate with Bigfoot. You're looking at one. I've been mind spoke so many times. They have a language, it is recorded, and there's at least 3 cryptolinguists that are working on an alphabet for Bigfoot. If a creature exists, therefore his language must exist. Identify the language, you have identified that we have a creature called Bigfoot that walks this earth. I met a doctor coming in, a professor this afternoon, and I'd love to hear his speech sometime and hear what he thinks about that. But guys, I do believe in Bigfoot. I do believe in the werewolf and Dogman. Let me throw one more last thing in there. Anybody ever heard of the Beast of Gévaudan? You will have Catholic records and these other records of other courts. Believe it or not, the Europeans have been writing down their history for a long time, and much more so than we have ever had.
Out of France.
Out of France. So in the hills of France, the Beast of Gévaudan killed as many, the Catholics say over 300. The court records identify over 400 to 500. What if I was to tell you that bloodline in 1775, a general left the area of Gévaudan, France, came here and helped America win the Revolutionary War. This general was so important that they gave him 2,000 acres in 1775. You want to know where that acreage site is? You're sitting on it. Now, did the bloodline of the Beast of Gévaudan come here? He brought with him over 15 male cousins that came from France. There were other killings in France, even though they had killed a huge wolf. I have been told that I have identified a family of werewolves that came here in 1775 and lived on this peninsula. I won't give names, but I have the family members right now. Some have run hotels in the area. I better cut that off and not speak of any further. Pretty interesting stuff. You've got to use genealogy. You got to listen to everyone in here who's teachers, because I learned from you, and I hope that I can distill a little bit of what little that I know. Thanks for letting me come here tonight. I've run across some of you in the woods in the last 2 or 3 days because we're really heavy. I must shamelessly plug for a man by the name of Greg Ogles. Greg Ogles and Adam Davies have come in here. We led the crew to an area where a preacher in 2016 asked for my help. He got my name through one of the sheriffs of the local counties. I came in here to try to stop cars being vandalized by Bigfoot. The Bigfoot did not want these people in their area, and I have been communicating and been having close contact with a clan of Bigfoot in that direction towards Bethlehem. We led a camera crew in here in March of this year, and Greg Ogles has shot a movie that will debut January 5th, and it will be one of the first Bigfoot movies that has been in AMC theaters in a long time. So it's going to be a good movie, and it may rival, it may get close to the Patterson-Gimlin film. We led folks in. I'll tell you that the cameraman got so frightened that he dropped his camera and ran. Last thing I'll say, Adam Davies made a speech and said, it took 2 hillbillies from Kentucky to lead me in here to have my very first face-to-face Bigfoot sightings. I love each and every one of you. Thanks for allowing me to talk. I hope I didn't talk too long. I love every one of you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Martin.
You're most welcome, Mr. Charlie, sir.
Great information. You know, that was a treat.
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Question? You have a question?
Yes.
Well, could you briefly tell these people your encounter?
I led another police officer for the Robertson County Sheriff's Office. I've worked there for a total of, I think it's 32 years. We came into this park to go turkey hunting, and I had no clue. And I will tell you right now that what happened to us that night is my own fault. I had no clue of the camp I had chosen. I chose a camp that is sitting on a temple mound with many tombs, graves that was destroyed by our government in the 1960s. Whatever lurks there attacked us because we chose that campsite. I'll be straight with you, I was trespassing. We came into this area, had no clue. We went to go turkey hunting. On the first night I was here, I woke up and my partner laid still. He actually could not move. He was frozen by whatever object had frozen him, whatever beast had a power, these abilities. He could not move, he could not speak. Now folks, that's the first time I've told that openly. That's what happened to him right there. He was frozen in our tent and could not move. I have identified 4, possibly 5 hunters that the same thing has happened to them. Briefly, the next night, we were attacked. A fireman from the state of Kentucky was killed only a mile from my camp. I met him, I spoke to him that day while we were out turkey hunting. He was torn, ripped to shreds out of his tent. He had given me a warning the day that I met him to please watch my camp and to be careful because something was walking outside the fire glow of his campfire and was lurking and circling him. I had no idea that when I spoke to that man that day, that would be his last, I think the last person that spoke to him. We were attacked, and by the grace of God, and I believe truly with all my heart, it was my religious faith in God and the prayers that I chose that kept the Dogmen. And there's another factor. We had Dogmen and Bigfoot. There's a huge debate going as to were the 2 Bigfoot there to protect me, or did they command the werewolves or Dogmen that attacked our camp? The debate is out on that. I will tell you that the Bigfoot that I'm identifying and speaking with in the area of Bethlehem are protectors of the land. The land has been taken, stolen, and molested by all of us, not you guys, but in history in general. The Bigfoot are upset here, and there is issues here. We were lucky to make it out alive, and one day, if you want to sit down with me, I'll give you great details as to what happened. But it was a terrific, horrific experience in which I still to this day suffer with nightmares. My wife will tell you that I wake up with some of the worst holy night terrors you can ever experience. I'm learning to deal with it even after 30 years. I've spoken with so many people that have had the same type of occurrence, but I've identified 38 people that did not identify quick enough because they're dead. 38 people have tragically lost their life on this peninsula, and all their death certificates are signed unknown predator attack, unknown animal. That's a quick one, and again, I love you guys, and I hope that answered the short one, but please keep it. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, what's your thoughts on the popular opinion that Dogman in the north part, Bigfoot in the southern part of the peninsula? Is that
Okay, I'm gonna answer that one, and because you've been such a good friend, and I love seeing you, man. Every time we bump across each other. How many of you have heard that? South, north, east, west, and all this stuff? It's a myth. Yep. It is a solid myth. I got Bigfoot right now on one end that has been seen in Kentucky. He has seen them up in this area. We got Dogmen in Boswell. They're not supposed to ever cross this mystical Kentucky-Tennessee state line of north and south. Virtually anywhere you go in here, you can see a Bigfoot or Dogman, if you're allowed to see one. Last thing, batteries not included. I love all you real, true researchers. If you really, really, truly want to have, and be careful what you seek, but if you want to have contact with one of these beasts, you're going to leave your batteries behind. Batteries not included. I divest myself. I'm always armed until I go into the woods searching and having contact. I'm always armed for humans. But when I go out into the woods, I take everything off that is offensive to Bigfoot. Sounds crazy, maybe I am, but I'm having contact. If you want contact, that's up to you. Be careful what you wish for. They will destroy parts of your brain when they communicate you. I identify with a handful of researchers that are dead now because they were having contact with Bigfoot, and as a result, the brain tumors, the hemorrhaging, and different aspects of medical. They will harm your body by accident. We are not equipped to have this type of contact. I still do it. So yes, there is no boundary, there is no territory, and I put Bigfoot and Dogman working hand in hand. Right here, a Fort Campbell doctor and his wife just had contact less than a year ago. Here, watching Bigfoot and Dogman working in tandem. Bigfoot catching fish, feeding Dogman up on the shore. Very good, competent witness.
So I wasn't even going to record this video, but I honestly can't even comprehend what I saw last night. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to disclose where because I don't want a million people coming out here trying to figure out what I possibly saw. I was sleeping, dead asleep last night above my cab. All of a sudden, I heard something rummaging through my cab. I was trying to be super quiet, super still. I didn't want to move because I didn't know what was in the back of my truck. And I rolled over and peeked through the window. And I swear there was like this huge thing standing there going through my stuff. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. There's no way it's a person. I'm miles from civilization. I always lock my doors at night. I must have forgotten. He must have heard me, or whatever it was heard me, because it dropped everything and scampered off into the woods behind me. Like ran. It was on two legs, so it definitely wasn't a bear, because last time I checked, I've seen a lot of bears, and bears run on four legs. So I got out in the middle of the night. I don't usually do that because it is creepy as heck when you're out here in the middle of nowhere in the dark. Door was open, and this bin was on the ground. The lid was off. There's food all over the ground, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. I just stuck around today because I want to try to figure out what's going on. I just kept my top popped down because if anything happens, I want to be able to bolt out of here with no problems. It's getting dark, and I want to try to see if I can get something on camera, like what this potentially might be. I don't have the greatest equipment for night shooting because I don't typically shoot at night, so you're gonna have to bear with me. I have multiple forms of protection. I don't know. We're gonna check out and see what happens. It's getting dark. This is a switch I'm gonna use if I see whatever it was lurking in the woods. I'm gonna flip the lights on, turn the camera on, and hopefully I can get it on camera. But for now, I'm just gonna keep drinking my coffee and perform Operation Surveillance for this unidentified creature. I have the window behind me, the window in front of me, and the window on the door. So I've got all angles covered. While I'm down here, I might as well mention, you might wonder why the camper is down. Well, I want to make sure I can get out of here really quickly if I need to, and you can actually sleep without the camper popped up. There's also a bed that you can lay out here. You flip the table and secure it and then put the cushions over it, and you can sleep here instead of up on the bed above. And you can still access all the amenities down below. I can access the fridge, all my storage, I can charge my camera and my phone, and I can access the heater. So I'm just chilling out here, waiting for this creature to come alive. Ugh, I'm a little sleepy. Hopefully I don't fall asleep and miss this guy. I didn't miss him last night. He wasn't very quiet, I'll tell you that. Well, it's been about 3 hours and I haven't seen or heard anything, but I'm gonna keep waiting. Still waiting around, haven't seen or heard anything. It's getting kinda late. Did you see that thing? I wonder if the outside camera got it. I don't know what that thing was, but that was insane. I've never seen anything like that creature before. It's just ripping through the woods. It is terrifying, and I need to get out of here right now. I gotta go. This is insane. I gotta shut this off.
Whether the legends are true or not, I stand by what I believe I saw that night was flesh and blood. But from what I'm told, these things can manifest as flesh and blood, and then they become ethereal at will. So that's why, I had the arguments with people who were just like, they're flesh and blood and that's all there is to it. Well, some of the people that have seen them around my hometown will tell you that they're flesh and blood, and the others will tell you that they're not. They'll tell you that they are spirits.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though, even if they were, why would you risk it? Why would you risk having just half knowledge, I mean, just have a speculation of have a belief of anything is possible, because you're not an expert on this subject. There's not a group that you can study, in depth. You can't. There's no way to study the entire species in a way that would give you conclusive, evidence. So the only thing you can do is believe from my experience, this is what has happened. But I can't speak for all dogmen on this subject like that. So I mean, that's why we're very open of we don't know, so it could be either way.
Out in the deep woods near Red Level sits one of the creepiest legends Alabama has ever produced. Well, just one of them. It's a place people still whisper about, even though the church itself is gone. The old Constellation Church, sometimes called Okie Street Methodist Church. It was this tiny abandoned wooden church surrounded by graves and pine trees way off of dirt roads where almost no one would accidentally stumble onto it. And for decades, people claimed that this place was flat out haunted. Now, what made this place different wasn't just one ghost story. It was the sheer amount of weird stuff people reported over the years. You'd hear stories about Confederate soldiers walking through the graveyard at night. People talked about hearing drums marching through the woods when nobody was there. Others swore that they saw little children playing between the headstones and then vanishing when you got close. But the story that really gave this place its reputation were the hellhounds. And yeah, that sounds something like straight out of a horror movie, but locals and thrill seekers alike claimed that they saw these giant black dog-like creatures with glowing red eyes lurking near the church. Some people said that the creatures would charge toward cars out of the darkness. Others claimed they heard growling and barking circling the woods while they sat parked near the cemetery after midnight. Then there's the phantom truck story. This one's probably the most famous legend from Constellation Church. Supposedly, if you stayed too long near the church late at night, an old pickup truck would suddenly appear behind you and chase you down those dirt roads. People claimed that the truck had no visible driver. Some said if the truck caught you, you'd wreck before reaching the highway. Now, of course, there's no proof of that actually happening, but enough people reported this story over the years that it became Alabama folklore. Some of the creepiest stories came from people who didn't even believe in ghosts before going there. There are reports from visitors claiming their vehicles mysteriously died near the church and then worked perfectly once they left the area. Others talked about hearing screaming coming from inside the building, even though it had been abandoned for years. There were even stories about shadow figures standing between the trees watching people from the edge of the woods. And just like every haunted location, there's always rumors layered on top of rumors. One local legend claimed a preacher went insane and murdered his family there. Another story claimed that occult rituals were held inside after the church was abandoned, especially after vandals painted pentagrams on the floors years later. Nobody really knows how much of that is true and how much just grew from teenagers trying to scare each other. What's wild is that skeptics admitted that the place has an atmosphere to it. People described it as unnaturally quiet. No wind, no animals, just a heavy feeling sitting around the middle of nowhere. And honestly, sometimes places don't even need ghosts to feel wrong. Old abandoned churches deep in Alabama woods already feel like something out of a nightmare by themselves. Then in 2015, the church burned to the ground. Authorities suspected vandalism or foul play because the building had no electricity running to it anymore. The graveyard survived, but the church itself was completely destroyed. And that should have been the end of the story. But according to locals, it wasn't. People still claim the cemetery is active. They still talk about shadows moving between graves and strange lights appearing in the woods. Some say whatever haunted that land never cared about the church building at all. Maybe it was just about the ground itself. And honestly, that's the part that sticks with me most about places like this. Whether ghosts are real or not, stories leave energy behind. Generations of fear, rumors, tragedy, imagination, all of it kind of stains a place over time until the legend becomes bigger than the truth ever was. And I've been here at night. It is quite spooky. So if you're ever driving the back roads around Red Level, Alabama, late at night, and somebody tells you about an old burned church hidden in the woods called Consolation, you may want to keep on driving, especially if headlights suddenly appear behind you on a road where nobody should be. But if you do go there, and you turn your car off, turn the headlights off, and then you open the door, and it gets quiet. And if you start to hear dogs barking in the distance, that may be your cue to leave.
A woman from the Rio Grande Valley sent me this story after hearing one of my videos about a Dogman sighting. So she said her husband was a truck driver, and years ago another driver told him something so bizarre that neither of the men that were involved would ever talk about it for nearly 20 minutes after the incident had occurred, because neither of them wanted to be the first person to say what they knew that they had both seen, and they didn't want to sound crazy. So this story takes place on I-35 between Laredo and San Antonio, Texas. Two truck drivers were traveling northbound, and it was really, really late at night. I don't even think there was anybody really on the road, and the lead truck was a few hundred yards ahead of the second driver, who was following behind him. Now, both men were talking occasionally over their CB radios as they drove through a particularly empty stretch of highway. They were really close friends, so it was something that they did to kind of keep them awake at night. Now, at some point, the driver in front noticed what looked like a large dog running alongside the median. And it wasn't unusual at first. There are plenty of stray dogs or even animals in general in Texas. But this thing was keeping pace with them. And the closer that he got, the bigger it got. And he later described it as being much larger than any dog that he's ever seen. And then, without warning, it suddenly launched itself onto the roadway. The lead driver was expecting to hit it, and the second driver slammed on his brakes, convinced that he was about to watch this massive collision and what was about to happen right in front of him. But the animal didn't run across the highway. It flew across it. The thing leapt from the median and cleared both northbound lanes in a single jump. It didn't scramble. It didn't hesitate, didn't barely make it. It cleared the entire roadway effortlessly and landed on the far shoulder. The lead driver was so shocked at what he had seen, he couldn't even react in time. The animal touched down only moments before he had ended up passing it. And that's when he caught a glimpse of it, of what this thing actually was. Because as it landed, it started standing up. Not like a dog, rearing up to take off or, launch itself, whatever. It stood up like a human on 2 feet. The lead driver only caught a split second of it, but the second driver had a perfect view, and he watched the creature rise completely up onto 2 legs. He said it was very tall, broad shoulders, covered in dark fur, and its arms hung down at its sides. Very common for werewolf or dogman sightings. And its head slowly turned to watch the trucks pass by. He said it looked like a massive humanoid dog. Not a bear, not a coyote. You know, they're very, very familiar with those types of animals. He said it was not like any animal that he had ever seen before. Just standing there, watching them as they passed by. And then the darkness swallowed it up as they kept going. Neither driver said a word over the radio for nearly 20 minutes as they just sat there in silence, unable to really comprehend what they had just seen. Finally, the driver in the rear keyed up on his microphone and he asked the simple question that they were both thinking. Did you see that? And the lead driver paused for several seconds before replying, and he said, you tell me what you saw first. You know, one of those, if you go, I'll go type of deals. And the second driver described everything that they had just seen. The jump, the way it stood up, the shape of its body, the way that it turned its head and looked at them. And when he finished, there was another long silence between them. And then the lead driver quietly just said, that's exactly what I saw. Now, neither man wanted to say the word out loud because they didn't want to sound crazy or, you know, whatever, but they both knew it. And eventually one of them finally spoke up about what they were both thinking. And he said, dude, was that a werewolf? And the other just answered, I don't know what it was, but I think you're right. And years later, both men still reportedly told the exact same story. Nothing changed. No details ever changed. It stayed the exact same for all these years. And according to the woman who sent this to me, sightings of large dog-like humanoids have been reported throughout parts of South Texas, for decades, especially around isolated highways and ranch land near the Rio Grande Valley. Whether it was a dogman, a werewolf, or something else entirely, two experienced truckers and guys that have been driving for years saw this at the exact same time and saw the exact same thing. And neither of them ever found a normal explanation for what crossed that highway that night.
You are hitting things that are confirming so many things that, like, I speak hypothetically about, almost in the sense that, like, I believe, but I can't prove, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But like, for instance, years ago, I had a guy on the show and, he didn't say it on the show. So I usually don't say his name because some people know who I'm talking about. Some people don't, but because he didn't say it on the show, I don't know why he didn't say it on the show. But he said that he was a former, I guess, I forget, like Satanist or whatever. Like he came from a deep line of this stuff. And he said at one point, he says at one point people have to make a decision, whether they're going to go the vampire route or the werewolf route. Mm-hmm. And, he said that he was told by somebody who went the werewolf route that he should go vampire because doing werewolf is like the most painful thing you'll ever experience in your entire life. I don't know. I can't say factually how true that is or not, but you're saying a lot of similar things. And now you're saying that there's traversing realms involved with this. So are you saying that there are people who are traversing realms because of their ability to change into these things, or are those two separate categories? Or sometimes the same?
I would say it like this. The reason that there's these First Nation people have preserved these priest class, right? Just all across the world. This isn't just like localized to white European people, because they do stuff like slipping between realms. We call them shadow walkers in the industry. Like, these are guys that have this means to go between spaces. And so whether you can't hear them, you can't see them, you can't detect them. They're not on thermal, but there's certain types of ways that you can detect them. So it's like you have to get kind of raised up into these arts. And these are like, this is why we call it, like, this is to me the realm of Azazel. I'm just convinced that this is all Azazel's kingdom in that realm, on that side of it. And people are just branching off of his tree of knowledge of good and evil side of it, and he's ultimately the one that was teaching men these ways of war in that sense of it. But like, just like with what happened with Nebuchadnezzar, man, they cursed him with lycanthropy. Daniel warns him, hey, don't go down that road. You got a dream from the Most High. Don't do it. And he did it anyway. He said the Watchers are going to curse you. And that's literally what they did, man. They cursed him and made him a beast. They took him down the lycanthropy road because that's what they do, man. His hair grew out. His nails grew out. Like, he became a different thing that if you and I spotted it on camera, we would say it's a cryptid. We would call these things cryptids because we don't have a proper working knowledge of history and understanding why people called these things these names. But the vampire side of the equation, they tend to be much more human masquerading. Whereas you get much more feral production when people start to take this other route of becoming a beast. That's kind of the options that they give people in that world. But I believe a lot of the guys that you see out there or who are experiencing these things, they're loose assets for families. Like these are guard dogs on estates. Like that's literally, there was a training program I had to go to when I was 9 years old, and we'd go up to this farm in Michigan that was in the family, my dad's cousin, and they train all of these police, military, law enforcement, and VIP protection dogs, but then they have other cages that are man-sized cages for other stuff because that gets brought in by the families, and it's like some of these are people that are just beasts, like physically people that are like not like the rest of us, strength-wise, speed-wise, power-wise, intelligence-wise.
But he said that there was a legend of a werewolf that roamed around in the woods, and it was in that area where his house was. And he claimed that this thing would come up to people's houses, look in the window, that pets had gone missing. This stuff was going on back in the 50s or whatever. Then it stopped. The activity stopped. There was no more stories about this creature. Like by the time the 1970s came, nobody was even talking about it. But during the summer months, at least 2 or 3 times a week, people would see from their houses, they would see this, what looked like a wolf walking on all fours on the beach. And it would stand up on 2 legs and then walk kind of half jogging. And it looked just weird. I mean, this guy claimed he witnessed it. And he said that it would just slowly fade away. Now, if the stories are to be believed that there was a flesh and blood creature running around in those woods, doing whatever those creatures do, and then eventually the stories about it stop, and then this phenomenon begins. Is it a ghost, a werewolf ghost? I mean, how would you classify that?
It's disturbing on a deep level, on a way that a creature like Sasquatch isn't. I mean, after all, we have biological explanations for a creature like Sasquatch. We don't have a biological explanation for a creature like a Dogman. And when you sort of combine that with other mysteries that we've been researching, including the many missing people in our national park system that have been chronicled by David Paulides of the Missing 411 books and the Canada America Missing Project, you begin to suspect that there is an unknown apex predator somehow responsible for those missing people. At least I do. And right now, my number one suspect are the Dogmen. There was a hiker who was gashed open by the fang of a Dogman as he ran by. And there have been a few other cases where the Dogmen seem extremely aggressive towards human beings. A group of 5 teenagers in Milwaukee one night had to run desperately from a Dogman, and the guy that was in last place, as they were running away, got his shirt ripped by the claws of the Dogman. It got that close, so we know it was intending harm. So I find that fascinating that you do have all of these cases of missing people. They don't appear to be Sasquatch responsible for it, in my opinion, because we've known about them for a very long time, and yet these missing person cases are relatively new, and they seem to coincide with a surgence in Dogman sightings.
Northern Michigan has a rule. Locals don't talk about that thing with outsiders, but everyone knows someone who's heard it, seen it. The Dogman is real. It always starts the same, near Traverse City, Grayling, or deep in the woods. Dusk settles in. Then comes the howl. Too deep. Too wrong to be any dog. Families up north pass down the rules. If you hear the howl and there's no dog around, you don't investigate. You don't look back. You go inside, lock the door, and stay there. Sightings cluster near the Manistee River. Empty highways, old cabins at the edge of the tree line. People report something tall watching from just beyond the light. Downstate calls it a legend, a 1987 radio hoax. But north of Mount Pleasant, the old-timers say the woods are older than the stories, and some things never left. Distant howl. If you know, you know. Stay safe up north.
Here in Wisconsin, around like the Holy Hill area, there's some real stories that happen. There was a story that I think I've talked about before. Like, it was on the news. Back when DNR would pick up carcasses, it was like a documented, legit story. The guy had his face blurred out. He refused to give up his name because he didn't want to be ridiculed, because he knew how ridiculous it sounded.
The story would sound.
He put the carcass, a deer carcass, in the back of the pickup truck, walked around, got in the car, started the ignition, writing up his stuff, and in that moment, in the rear view mirror, caught a glimpse of something. But he felt the tailgate of the truck
like something
go down and
into the
compressed
truck,
it, and then lifted a full-grown doe deer, not a fawn. Like, that's heavy.
110.
Jumped out of the truck
pounds?
with the deer and ran off and ran off.
Oh. Oh. What? Where'd it go? What is that? What the son of a... What's going on here? Oh my God.
People argue Dogman versus Werewolf like it's a folklore debate. Witnesses don't talk like that, because once you hear enough real encounters, the difference becomes obvious and uncomfortable. Dogman watches. It appears at the edge of light, at the edge of roads, at the edge of places humans and wilderness overlap, and it stays there, still, measuring, letting itself be seen. Werewolf encounters don't feel like that. They feel like something building. The night goes quiet. Animals panic. The air feels heavy, like the environment itself is leaning in. And when a werewolf shows itself, it doesn't linger. It advances. It closes distance. It escalates. It doesn't observe. It engages. That's why Dogman stories leave people shaken. And werewolf stories leave people changed. One feels territorial, the other feels personal. And once you hear the patterns side by side, you stop lumping them together just to feel safer. You realize you're dealing with two very different kinds of danger.
Doug thought he was looking at a person, then it turned its head and he saw its face. In the summer of 2007, Doug and 3 friends were walking down a back street in Everett, Washington. They were heading toward his apartment when one of his friends suddenly pointed toward the woods. "Dude, what is it?" The other 2 were already staring at a lone figure standing only about 6 feet away. At first, Doug thought it was a person. Then he saw its face. A dog-like face stared back at him. Its eyes looked demonic. Its teeth were the size of something off a mutated wolf from a low-budget horror movie. The claws looked like they were 3 times larger than a bear's. What made it even more disturbing was that this was happening in broad daylight. But the strangest part wasn't its appearance. The creature wasn't acting hostile. It wasn't hunting them. Instead, it looked directly at Doug, and only Doug. The look it gave him felt almost familiar, as if it somehow recognized him. Doug was convinced it was female, and despite how terrifying it looked, its intentions didn't seem aggressive. It stared at him like it knew him in another form. Then just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. Doug never saw it again. But since that day, he's kept an eye out, hoping to find whatever or whoever in human form. So far, he's had no luck. What would you have done if something like that locked eyes with you from only 6 feet away?
You guys hearing that?
Yo, what the? Yo! Yeah, that is. Hello? Yo, you see that dude? Look! Yo, get the f out of here. Yo, go, 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 go. Come on.
We got chittering. Yep, we got chittering.
He's driving!
It's looking right at us. Go! It's running. Oh my!
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello?
Thank you for watching. If these Dogman encounters sent a chill down your spine, make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, stay safe, stay aware, question everything, and remember, out there in those woods, something might be watching.